Okay, hi everyone and welcome. My name is Carol Glasser. I am a associate professor of sociology at Minnesota State University in Mankato in the United States. I am also chair of the Animals and Society section of the American Sociological Association. We are one of the co-sponsors of this series. We all have the pleasure of co-sponsoring this series with the Animals and Society Institute. If you are not a member of the Animals and Society Institute, I highly recommend that you sign up. And if you are a sociologist, please join the American Sociological Association and join us. I know that's a smaller crowd, but anyone free of charge can get on the email list for the Animals and Society Institute. So I really recommend you do that. You get announcements about great things like this. And ASI also has a lot of great resources on their website. I've gone ahead and posted links to both of those organizations in the chat already. And we also record these colloquiums. And so you can find videos of our past colloquiums on the ASI website. And I put a link to that up already. So if you want to see some of the other things that we've been up to and we've been doing, there's been a lot of great talks in the last couple of years. So please go ahead and check that out. Before I introduce our speaker, I would just like to let everyone know this is being done in a meeting format. The reason for that, rather than a webinar format, is because half of the event will be our speaker and then the other half will be a Q&A. So that gives you an opportunity if you have questions to speak and enter into dialogue. So just make sure that your mute button is on so it doesn't interrupt the speaker while they're speaking. The format will be a talk, and we'll do an uninterrupted talk. You can feel free to put things in the chat and have conversations as the talk is going, but we're not going to do questions during the talk. Then after about half an hour, we'll open it up to Q&A. During the Q&A, I'll moderate the chat so that if you have any questions that you want to ask, but you don't feel like speaking out loud, or something just pops into your head and you don't feel like waiting and you want to get it out there, please just put it in the chat and I'll be sure to go through and moderate those questions and be able to ask them. You could also use the hand raise emoji, and then I'll just call on people in the order that they were taking, balancing that between the written and the spoken questions. So without further ado, this is not the reason you are here. You do not want to hear these announcements. You want to hear our talk today, Coexistence with Community Cats. Coexistence with Community Cats is a talk that's being given by Dr. Irina Frasin at the Institute of Social and Economic Research in Romania, the Romanian Academy, the Iasi Branch. Dr. Frasin is a researcher in the Institute of Social and Economic Research, as I just noted. Her basic formation is in philosophy and history, and for about 10 years, she has taught classical Greek philosophy and intercultural communication. Lately, she's begun to focus her research on anthrozoology, moving from intercultural communication to interspecies communication. She's currently co-editing the book series Anthrozoology Studies and Thinking Beyond Borders. As well as animal life and human culture and non-human animals in open societies. So we clearly have a lot to learn from Dr. Frasin. So with that, I'm going to turn the talk over to her.
Thank you so much, Carol, for this nice introduction. And hello, everyone. And thank you for joining this. First and foremost, I wish to thank our guests, Carol, Gala, and Lisa, for organizing this wonderful series of discussions. And it is my pleasure and privilege to be here with all of you and debate this very interesting and important topic, and also very dear to my heart, especially. So I will go on and share my screen. Please let me know if everything is working fine. If you can see it.
It looks great.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be talking about the coexistence with community cats. And I wish to start with an overview of the whole presentation because there are so many interesting things to note about the community cats. So I just organized the discussion in 3 main issues. First, we'll talk a little bit about the cats themselves, who these cats are. Then we'll be talking about the issues they raise, or better said, the problems that we weave around their existence, the problems that we create regarding their existence in our communities. And we will try to see what is the way forward towards a more compassionate coexistence I just can't move this. I don't know why. It's not working. Yes. So first, who are the community cats? When we talk about cats, the borders between wild and domestic, tame and feral are getting a little bit blurred. There are so many categories that we try to fit these cats in, and sometimes these terms are even used interchangeably, and they are very much dependent on the context. And because I'm talking from Romania, we don't even have translations for all the terms that we use when we talk about this in English. So the terminology is a little bit elusive. This is good and bad. It's kind of ambivalent. It's bad because we tend to put negative tags to charge negatively some of the terminology around the unowned cats. This is why I prefer to refer to them cats. But let's go a little bit deeper and try to define the terms. How the basic criteria when we are talking about these cats are, and trying to fit them in different categories, are their guardianship status and their level of socialization. So first of all, we have the companion cats that we all are so familiar with, but these companion cats are also house cats. Yes, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they do roam outdoors freely in many cases. We have the stray cats, the cats that live close to us, that they are familiar to us, they use our resources. Some of us feed them, see them around our apartments, our homes, blocks, neighborhoods, enjoy their presence. Some of us are disturbed by that. But first and foremost, these stray cats are having quite a good level of socialization, but they are unowned. They don't have guardians, or at least in the normal, I mean, in the usual definition of the term. And then we have the feral cats. The feral cats are both without a guardian, and they are also unused to people. They are considered as living away from human management and control, having their own lives and societies and communities apart from us. Sometimes in their territories are overlapping our own, so we see them, but most of the times these very unused to people cats are far less visible because they are also weary of us and they choose to appear in times when we are not around. So most of the times these cats are a little bit harder to notice, but they are still there. And then we have the free roaming cats. Free roaming cats are somehow inclusive of all these categories because all these categories, all these kind of cats are roaming free, including our cats that we have inside. And sometimes they are allowed to, for a better quality of life. Some of us may think are allowed to roam freely outside. Then we have the street cats. And why I prefer the term community cats, it's because it's somehow showing their sense of belonging in the community. Their territories, their territories are overlapping ours. And maybe if we start to see them in this light as community cats, we start to get a sense of their belonging in our community. They are belonging there beside us and not as an intrusive species, somehow disturbing our usual arrangement. Then we have community cats, and we also have cat communities. Feral cats live everywhere. They can be found everywhere where people have traveled, because either we brought them along as for rodent control or other pest control, or we accidentally let them escape from our homes, or they are deliberately abandoned. Most of recently, this is the case, may be the case. And this is why we have a very large variation in how we see these cats, where we see these cats, and how these cats live. And this is important to notice because these differences that we are creating, I mean, that we see between them, it's also creating differences in the way these cats live. Their communities are different. The way they live, their communities and cultures are different. The way they live, it's different upon the situation where they are living, upon the community that they are inhabiting. So let's go a little bit deeper and see a little bit of cat behavior and philosophy. Most of us, when we talk about cat behavior, are used to think about the house cats. There are a lot of books talking about this, how we can create better environments for our house cats and how to keep them happy. But these cats are just a part of the story, and many cats live independently of human care and control. And these cats live quite a different life than our companion cats. And it is a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn from them, observing them and how they live their lives in our, between, among us in our communities. We have a lot to learn from them if we want, even if we simply want to offer a better home for our companion cats. So from the many particularities that the lives of these free roaming cats is having, I just chose to bring to your attention the communal living, the social interactions, and their rich family lives. This is, these are the things that impressed me the most, because generally we tend to think about cats as being solitary, or at least solitary eaters, solitary hunters, if not completely solitary animals. Anyway, when we think about them compared to our dogs, which are pack animals, clearly, we think that cats are loving to be left alone. And if we just have one cat bringing another one, it's somehow disturbing for them. And the territory fights and all those disturbances. But observing these cats living outside in their special communities, it's just a pleasure and privilege to be among them, because they are so loving and they form communities so well, working so well together. I'll just give you an example and move forward because of the time. For instance, we know that, and this I've seen in the cats that I'm following, that mother cats used to leave the sick kittens outside of the nest to protect the remaining kittens of the disease. The interesting part in this community, community cats, is that other cats from their communities are stepping in and taking care of the small ones, not to let them just die because they are so small and alone and helpless. And this is just wonderful to see. Now, the way we frame the issue is somehow dictating the way we will look for solutions. If we see the feral cats as wild and separated from us, then, if we frame the problem of the cats in this way, then it will be easier for us to imagine and think about ways to control them than about ways to integrate them in our communities, to see them as our co-citizens and to find suitable ways to coexist, to be good for us and for them in the same time. Most of the times, these cats are seen either as victims who are abandoned by humans and who desperately need our help and they cannot manage without us, or just as a nuisance and a disturbance that they have to be controlled, eradicated, or eliminated to have the landscape clearer. Thus, we get to the issues they raise, or the problems we start to build around their existence. And I just grouped them in three main groups to be easier to follow. There are others, but we can, I think, sum it up in this kind of arrangement. First and foremost, it's the welfare of the cats themselves. Are these cats really living a fulfilling life, a full life? We know that they live a shorter life than our companion cats that we keep indoors. So is their life worth living? It's hard to talk about this in these terms, but this is the first issue. Then the public health concerns, the zoonotic diseases, such as the very well-known rabies, other zoonoses and parasites that can be spread by their existence, and also other infectious diseases that they may transmit to our house cats. And last but not least, it's their impact on the wildlife. We know that in the past they were treasured for their great hunting skills, but now we blame them for exactly the same reason. First, their welfare and well-being. it is very hard to document the quality of life of these free roaming cats. And as you may very well imagine, their well-being and welfare is depending greatly upon the place and the method of assessing their welfare. Most of the times we assess their general body condition, the wounds that they have, the fur condition, the eye secretions, and so on and so forth. But despite the opinion of many, including PETA, these free roaming cats can, and sometimes even do, enjoy quite a good quality of life. Sometimes they live freer, and they can live, it's not in all the cases, of course, but they can live most fulfilling lives than our cats that are kept indoors, even if not longer lives. But of course, this is depending very much on the community, the human community where they are belonging, and the attitudes of this human community towards their existence. If they are understanding, or if they are seeing them as something to be eliminated from their community. A special attention has to be given to the cats passing through crisis situations, because these cats are having accidents, wounds, disease, infectious diseases, or cancer, or other medical issues. And dealing with this is extremely difficult, especially for the cats who are having little socialization with humans. Getting them to the veterinarian is a complete challenge, and deciding on critical issues like how disabled or geriatric cats can fend for themselves if they are left to manage, it's really difficult, and it's having a toll on the caregivers that are involved in taking care of these cats. Also, we do have, at least here, we have a big problem with the veterinarians, who most of them are not used to treat feral cats. Most of them are having patients only companion cats, and they find hard to deal with. So dealing with feral cats, it's extremely difficult and needs a lot of patience and a lot of training from the part of the veterinarian. Then the public health concerns. We have first and foremost the zoonotic diseases and the parasites and the other infectious diseases. But the main point here is that if we are keeping the cats in good health, if we can do that, then this problem will solve by itself, because there will be less parasites, less disease, and so on. They will be in better condition, and their health will be improving, and the environment will be cleaner, and us will not have this problem. Then there are the waste management concerns, because mainly it's in the cat context, it's connected with the cat colony feeders, who are sometimes blamed of not being careful of how they feed the cats and what is happening with the food, because other animals can come eat from there. Sometimes even conflicts may arise around this issue. So this is a little bit complicated to solve, but also with education and care and a lot of information, this also can be managed correctly. And then the hardest issue to follow and the most emotionally charged is the concern over the wildlife. This, of course, is very varied between communities and places. We do not have the same problems everywhere. Cats are opportunistic hunters, and they adapt very well in their niche, in their ecology, in the space where they are supposed to live. They are also the rodent specialists, and this is making them, or at least for a long time in history, made them extremely precious assets to have around. But it is very difficult to balance their interests and those of the wildlife in places where they are really endangering the wild birds, for instance. There are apparent conflicts in dealing with this situation between conservationists and animal rights representatives. I will not go into details because of the time concern, but the problem is we should go beyond this, because both perspectives are concerning the love and care for everything that is alive. So we should be mindful when drawing solutions, to be more inclusive and to think of all the parties. Because me, for instance, I'm also a bird feeder. In the winter, I like to feed the birds, and I also take care of the cats. And this can be managed, of course, with a lot of care for not disturbing the balance. So in fact, we need context-sensitive evaluations and context-sensitive solutions to adapt to the place we are talking about and the wildlife existing in those places. And this should be possible. It must be possible. The perspectives, as I was saying earlier, are very emotionally charged when we are talking about this, because it's depending very much on life experiences, interpretations of the facts, and also insufficient data. It looks like we do not have enough reliable information about the true impact of cats on the population, especially on the endangered species, how much they are the ones disturbing the equilibrium and not other factors. But in fact, what we should keep in mind is the thing that death is just a part of living, and cats are predators, unlike us. So it is really, really important to see that these are who they are. They will never be something else. And the only way, we know that already, that the only way to stop them from hunting is to keep them indoors, because all the other inventions like the bells on their collars and other ways to stop them, it's really frustrating for the cats. And some studies are saying that it's not even having the hoped effect for protecting the wildlife. So the situation is the following. First of all, we should get more comfortable with the natural order of things, because death is just a part of life, and there where there is no death, there can be no life, because everything is transformation, and predators do have a very important role in the ecosystem in general. So we should not bring these anthropocentric cares that we have in this talk. But also, there are situations, of course, where cats are really putting in danger different species, and these situations should be addressed separately and with a lot of concern for everybody involved. So it's a very delicate balancing act. We have to admit that cats are skilled hunters, and they can kill prey as large as a rabbit. And they kill a lot of prey per day if they are to feed themselves, in case they are semi-wild, or they just kill because this is who they are, even if they are well-fed and taken care of home cats. Their home range is varied, so we cannot rely on the fact that we can keep them just here around and they will not roam in enter other wilder spaces where they can cause damage. There is the case here when cats are entering natural reserves and they are blamed for killing birds there, but the situation is yet unclear. Are these village cats who are roaming that far, or they are living away from human, they are living completely away from human care? Here, at least, we don't yet know. In Australia and New Zealand, the situation is extremely particular, because the cats have been pinpointed of playing a key role in both local and widespread decline and extinction even of some species of native birds. So where cats have been introduced quite recently, and the native life was unprepared for these exquisite predators. Even the framing on the other side of the talk in this way, non-native invasive species perspective, like in the case of Australia and New Zealand, it's not necessarily value-free. It's very influenced by our interests, because in general, native animals like wolves were eliminated because they created us problems for non-native animals like our livestock. So we have to be very well balanced and leave emotions aside when we are trying to decide which is really the best way to go. And first and foremost, of course, we need a lot of information and a lot of studies done in this direction. We have also the mesopredator effect, the case when the top predator is eliminated, then the effect is not the hoped one. And the urban predation paradox, the case when in urban spaces, rich in cats and other predators, the population of birds is still very high, or even higher than in rural areas. So feral cats are a boundary case that reveal the fragility of the hard and fast categories that we have established to try to assign meaning, value, and territory to members of other species. They reveal the wilderness that lurks in our even our most intimate and domesticated companions. And they also reveal the possibility of communication and care, even with animals who reject close contact. I like this so much. And this is describing so much, so good the relationship that we can share with these wonderful animals. And finally, towards a compassionate coexistence. We do not have time yet to argue about the duty of care that we have towards these wonderful animals, and because of how they were domesticated and how much we were dependent on them all along our histories, because they got there protecting our first granaries, libraries, ships when we traveled, and so on and so forth. So we really depended on them for a large part of our history, and thus we became dependent on them. So I do think that because of that dependence, and because we tame them and use their skill for our advantage, we do really have a care of duty towards them. And there are a lot of moral dilemmas surrounding of how exactly we should try to care for them, because the fact that we do have a duty of care, we may agree to that, but really what this duty entails, then it's a different story. And every time we try to live differently with other species, we enter in this debate, and we do have a lot of differences, because first of all, what is the best, how we can choose the best life for us different species? How do we know? And the more we respect them and we respect their autonomy, then we should be just leaving them be and not put limits on their exercise of autonomy. But sometimes this is inevitable because we are sharing the same space. So we need to find coexistence strategies that are working for both of us. So what is correct? How we decide what is good, what is not good? Can we decide for them? Or maybe we should find ways of listening to them and letting them decide what is what really matters for them, what is really important for them. So in fact, we need to find more equitable ways of living with our community cats. We have to understand them better, first and foremost. We need to find ways to understand them. And this is a cooperative effort because monitoring cat colonies is complicated, and sharing resources and information is crucial. And we need to engage with them as subjects, fellow co-citizens, because only in this way we can be attentive to what they are trying to tell us. We can be attentive to their needs, and in this way rethink animal well-being and protection, not only in sanctuaries, but also in society at large. We need to reimagine the way we think it's correct and good to live together. We need to manage cat colonies sometimes, because overcrowding, it's a very serious risk for the cats. And when we start to feed the cats, the number of cats are going higher, and then we need to intervene not to have complicated issues. So trap, neuter, return programs are really helping in improving the life of these cats. But taking better care of these cats supposes, first and foremost, support and education, because we need to develop strategies for coexistence. And developing these strategies for coexistence needs to start from developing a safety network, because we need to give the people that necessary information for taking better care of their own cats. We need to let them know about the problems of these community cats and how they can help, and how they can stay away from them and build fences, for instance, in case these cats are disturbing them. We need to talk about responsible cat ownership, yes, but we also need to take care of the situations when people genuinely cannot keep their cats, and they need to have a backup resource. They need to have somebody or some place or some network where they can apply to rehome those cats, not to leave them simply outside and start other cat colonies. We need all this network, all this information, all these people connected to other people, so that we need to help each other to help these cats. But what are the boundaries between care and control? This is really a very fine line and very difficult to draw, because sometimes these things are depending on each other and built on each other. Because, for instance, like I was saying earlier, managing the numbers of the cats in the colony is also for their benefit, but it's clearly a means of control. So we cannot draw a very hard line between this. We just need to be very aware and always keep this in mind. So, but the basic thing that we need to do is to increase the value of cats in the minds of the public. We need to provide the community with information, resources, and knowledge to understand these cats, to empathize with them, to see them as individuals, to no longer find the acceptable to leave them behind or to treat them badly, or to treat the people who are trying to help these cats badly. We need social change, and this is a fact, because only when we are accepting that the community cats need exactly the same care and attention that our companion cats need at home, then we will start to get that these cats are our shared and common responsibility in the community where we are. So in fact, we need to create a community of cat caregivers. We need to bring people together. In fact, cats are bringing people together, and we see this very well. They are bringing people together both on site in an effort to try to help them, and online in cat admirers communities. But also cats that do have their enemies. I mean, all along their history, the cats were the ones who raised really powerful emotions in us humans, and they both had their admirers, but their haters as well. So, in fact, what we really need is to reimagine, rethink, and reinterpret the idea that we need to separate these free-roaming cats from the community for protection reasons, protection for the cats or protection for us for the reasons I just mentioned earlier. They are here and they belong in the community just as we do. We have overlapping territories, and we need to learn gradually to accept this. We need to support people to take care of their cats, and we need to support people who are taking care of the cats of the community, cats who are unowned and no other people want to take responsibility for them. So we need to support the people who do take responsibility for those cats. We should strive to change attitudes and perspective, to the point where we accept that cats are a part of our multi-species cities, communities, and societies. We are privileged to have them around, and their presence is really enriching our lives, is making them better. So for this only reason, I mean, even only for this reason, we should see that we do have an obligation to take care of them in return. So if we acknowledge that breaking the cat-human bond is traumatic, then breaking the bond between these cats and the community where they are is really also traumatic, must be seen as also traumatic. So we need to understand and accept the fact that the community cats are belonging in the community among us. And in this way, if we build the relationship with our cats in this way, then this relationship with the cats can be a model for making or for designing future multi-species assemblages, cities, and other arrangements. This is a list of selected references, and thank you so much for following this presentation.
Thank you so much for that fabulous presentation. We've had an active chat, so I can get started asking you a question from the chat, and then if people can raise their hands if they have any questions to ask. Are you familiar, Dr. Frasin, with the one Sorry, I lost the comment. The One Health approach.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
so someone wants to know, what is your view on the One Health approach to managing colony cats?
As I was trying to say earlier in the presentation, the fact that we still see cats as a threat for our health and our the cleanliness of our environment is having a lot to do, in my opinion, with the fact that these cats are not always in the best health possible. So if we are striving to keep the cats healthy, it is really difficult because this is very dependent on the situation of particular cats in particular and particular cat communities. But the idea is that as the cats are getting to be healthier, the environment will be cleaner and us will be protected from the diseases that can spread us and also our house cats, because we, at least here in Romania, we do have this problem that we have to vaccinate our cats more than in Western Europe, for instance. I mean, yearly, for instance, because we do have this diseases that we can bring to them and they can get from our community cats. So taking better care of the health of the community cats will also bring the circle, the full circle, and we will all be better off in this way.
Thank you. And now I'll turn to Chris Hill, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
There it is. Yeah. Hi, Irina. Yeah, great talk. I always love hearing you talk about cats. And I do have a question, but first I just want to really say that you said that we really need to find ways of listening to the cats and respecting cats as individuals. And I totally agree. I'm like, yes, we need to because I hear a lot about what's best for cats and what different people think are best for cats. And I really think we do need to we need to listen to the cats. Yes. So I feel like, it's a little bit preaching to the choir, because I'm totally on board with all your ideas. But I just wondered if you thought, so I have this conversation with my colleagues sometimes about in the UK, the reintroduction of wildcat species like the Scottish wildcat. There's a lot of research on rewilding, and I really struggle with that, because on the one hand, sort of the cats are losing popularity because they prey on birds and they're a nuisance, and on the other hand, conservationists are all about protecting or reintroducing this species, and they're so they look the same when you see them. They're behaviorally very different, but I just find that whole thing in itself, it's something that I struggle with a lot, or I think about a lot. But I had a question. I'm sorry. I'm waffling on again, excuse me. I just wondered what your thoughts were on these two very closely related populations of a wildcat species versus free-living Felis catus. And I'm going to shut up there because I hope you got my question, and I'm I'm going off on one again, sorry.
Thank you so much
for your talk.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you again, and it's always nice to chat about cats with you, and it's really a pleasure. So the situation is really complicated, because what we admire, it's exactly like I was saying in the presentation, what we admire about our cats in the beginning, because they are really skilled hunters. Now we see in the wildcat species, and for them it looks like it's just fine, because while they are wildcats and they need to prey in order to make their living. So my point on that is that, in fact, we should be looking very carefully, and I don't think this has been done enough, on the ecological place that our cats are having. I mean, I think that they have been blamed a lot for disturbing the wildlife and so on, but really, at least in some cities and in some contexts here, they really have a really important role in keeping some populations of rodents under control. And this is really, I mean, this is something to think about, because well, cats are predators. Okay, so we cannot think about them in another way. And I'm all for reintroducing wild cat species, because I don't know, I think all cats are precious, so why not? And they are really adapting really well to living independent from us, and they can be kind of a model for other rewilding programs. But anyway, when we are talking about this reintroduction and rewilding and so on, we should do it with compassion. We should not get the individuals out there to manage on their own. So in a way, feral cats have a lot to teach us on this, because they are managing quite well away from us. So maybe they can really be a model in reintroducing these wild species in a compassionate way for the individuals. So yeah, I mean, I think that we really need to look harder on their role in ecology, their place they have, both the newly introduced wild species and our free living cats. So to understand them better, because I think this is lacking some really hard studies and information on that. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. We just got a question in the chat from Kathy, who says, I work in Northern Italy at Cat Refuge, and I'm toying with the notion that feline colonies are interspecies social laboratories. This would fit with the one welfare, i.e. cat givers, cat QOL. Thoughts? I don't know if you want to read the question in the chat, or if...
Yeah, I think I need to read it to get it better. But I need to find it where it is.
It's the last question in the chat.
Okay. With the notion of feline are interspecies, okay. In shared species, correctly. This would fit with one welfare, yeah. Well, I'm not sure that I really get the question, but in fact, from where I stand, our community cats and cat colonies, yes, they are definitely social laboratories, and they can teach us a lot of how to live in a multi-species space. I mean, it's not only the cats, it's the cats and all the life beside them, and how they are fitting in this space. So yeah, better welfare for the cats means better welfare for us, better welfare for other species, because we know that predators predators have a key role in keeping an environment healthy, and without them we have many examples of how things are crumbling. So yeah, we need to keep it balanced. This is what I can say. I don't know if I really got the question.
Thank you. Izzy Clark has a question, if you want to unmute and ask.
Hi, Irina. You might hear my cat mewing in the background. Wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I know that last month I was talking about animal cultures, and I could really see how interesting it will be to understand more about the community cat communities, in that is so different from the way that we do traditionally believe that cats being independent, solitary creatures. So I did think that some sort of collaboration there would certainly be interesting. And further to that, I mean, when we were talking, and in Chris's question about understanding more about what matters to other animals, I do think that how they behave given autonomy and the opportunities that they need for quality of life, as in sort of food, water, and enough space, that how they construct their own cultural communities gives us all we need to know as far as what matters to them is concerned. But they need to have the space, the freedom, and the opportunities, the affordances to be able to achieve that. And that's what's so problematic, that we don't allow that, not just for community cats, but for most species. So it's kind of a comment that I'm asking you to respond to rather than a specific question. Sorry, Irina.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to see you here. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot observing the community cats, things that I didn't know that my cats, for instance, that my home cats needed. First and foremost, as I said, it's their community life. I mean, I've read a lot, and I know that a lot of information out there, how the cats are kind of solitary, at least solitary eaters and solitary hunters, and they don't need so much company, and their common life, I mean, their family life, it's not so important to them, but in fact, it's really important to them. And I observed some things which, I don't know, if we keep our cats separated and we destroy family units because we give the kittens to adoptions when they are very young, we do not have any chance of observing. So the way that the colonies develop are very specific and very much dependent on the conditions where they are. So cats are really adaptable to the space where they are, and the conditions and the environment and the conditions where they are living. The size of the colonies is very different. I mean, usually the female cats are not leaving their families. They are staying there in the colony with their mothers and aunts and raising the kittens together and sharing these motherly duties between them. And the interesting thing is that, as I observed, there are cats who are really devoted mothers, and they do enjoy taking care of kittens, and they take care of kittens of their daughters also, and so on. And there are other cats who are very much disturbed, or they are a little bit more independent, and they don't like to take care of the kittens for too long. And the nice thing that in a cat colony, you will see cats feeding their kittens and the kittens of another cat, or their sister or their mother or whatever from the colony. So you see quite old kittens, like 5 months old kittens, staying there and cuddling with 1 month or 2 months old kittens. It's really, I mean, their families are really complicatedly built. So their relationships are complicated. For instance, young males. We know everywhere the young males are supposed to be independent and go away from the colony and live their own lives. But no, in the colony that I'm observing for quite some years now, I saw young males taking care of young kittens whom their mothers rejected because they are sick. So they don't fit in the nest, not to spread the disease among the other kittens. But these young males, like 6 months or something, 7 months old males, are taking care and washing the small kitten and feeding, I mean, feeding beside the small kitten, because they are getting the food. These cats are already fed, but they are eating together from the same place. So he's protecting somehow the small one. It's really impressive. I mean, given the chance to observe this cat in their environment without too much of our intervention, we discover just wonderful things. Male cats, for instance, the male cat, the most dominant, so to speak, because even the dominance here with cats, it's really different from what we see in other animals. The most dominant cat in the colony I'm observing, for instance, was choosing high places where to stay and watch over the young ones playing. So it's really wonderful. I mean, we know that the father cats don't care about their kittens. I mean, they are just there to father them, and they don't get involved too much. But yeah, in some cases they do get involved and they do watch over them. So it's really great and informative to observe them and to learn from them and to really listen to what they want. and what is important to them. Yeah. I hope I answered somehow.
Thank you. We have a really active chat, so I just like to tell everyone now, if I don't get a chance, because we might go right up to the timer here, I will do my best at the end of this event to compile a lot of the resources that are being shared in the chat. So when I send everyone who registered a recording of the video sometime anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks after the recording. So I'll do my best to compile these resources for you all, but you might want to go ahead and save the chat as well. We have a number of questions. The last question we got is a question about if your colony is fed by humans. And I'm wondering if I could just sort of expand on that and ask you to tell us a little bit about the work that you are doing specifically with your colony and what that colony is like and the types of observations you are doing, just so that we can know a little bit more about that context.
Well, the colony that I'm observing right now, I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time, and it's not only with this particular colony that I'm observing now, but before, it was when I was living in a different space, I was observing the colony in the neighborhood there. But now I moved to a different neighborhood, and I'm observing the colony of the cats living here. And the interesting thing is that the cats, the community of the cats are very different, because in the old place, the cats were loved by everyone. They were mixing with house cats that were having also access to the outdoors, and they were very friendly, human oriented, and so on and so forth. But here in the new place and the colony that I'm observing right now, is that the people are, I mean, it's a complex of villas where people don't like too much to have cats sleeping on their outside furniture, so to say, to get them on the flowers and so on. So the cats here are very much weary of people. So they are keeping their distance. But they are fed by a number of neighbors in the area. So their territory is overlapping several yards here. So it's really interesting. These are the cats that I'm observing. So yes, they are fed by people in the neighborhood, and they do have places where to stay in the winter, because we used to have, but now lately with the global warming, the winters are a little better. But anyway, it's getting cold, so they do have place in garages where to play, or basements where to sleep and to find warm places. Yes. So they are okay, not everywhere, but I guess that they are learning where they are okay to come and where they are not wanted, and they avoid those gardens and territories. So, and which is something that I observed lately, and it's really making me happy. It's that they started even to learn how to avoid cars. So we didn't have car accidents lately. So I hope this situation is continuing like this, because people are not taking care of cats when they are driving, unfortunately.
Thank you for telling us a little bit more about that. I have a question from Kate in the chat. I don't see any hands up out there. There's already a lot of conversation going on around this in the chat. But the initial question is, do you think there is an ideal vision or outcome for cats? For example, in New Zealand, some people have been saying every cat on a lap should be our goal. This could mean that community cats are okay, where they have dedicated carers, but it does mean that we maybe shouldn't create more cat colonies. What are your thoughts on that comment?
Well, my thoughts on that is the situation is very specific, and it cannot get a general answer. So it's very much dependent on the community or on the place where the cats are. If the cats are, like I was trying to say earlier, they are generating a real conflict over the wildlife preservation, or their place in the ecology of the system is really documented as being negative, then yes, what you said, it's going to be okay. But if it's not the case, and I guess that in most cases it's not the case, then I am very well, I mean, I think that the cats who are living free lives, they can live really good and fulfilling lives. And this is what I see in the colony that I observe at the moment.
Thank you. And we probably have time for one more question if anyone wants to raise their hand. We are really close to time though.
I
Yep.
I would just say that if you save the chat and can possibly send it to me, because I didn't have time to read any of the comments and
Yes, I will definitely send you the whole chat, and for everyone else, I will do
Thank
my best to compile all these resources. I'm also going to pop up here Dr. Frasin's contact information as well. This has been a really great presentation. Everyone's thinking a lot, and the chat has been active the whole time. So I think that you are really going to enjoy reading that. I would like everyone to take a minute to thank Dr. Frasin for this wonderful talk. Thank you so much. It was fabulous.
Thank you everyone for being here and for talking about such an important issue, because thinking about the cats, talking about the cats, finding better ways to coexist with them and all the other living creatures around us, it's really a wonderful step, and we really need to do that. Thank you so much.
And thank you. This was a wonderful way to end our colloquium series for this academic year. We take a small break for a few months during the summer. I know not everybody is on an academic schedule, but many of our speakers are. So hopefully you are on the ASI email list. If you are, you'll get announcements about these, or if you're on the ASA Animals and Society section, you'll be getting announcements about these as well. You also had an opportunity when you signed up to be on a mailing list to know when we have more of these talks. So our next talk will be in September. So thank you all so much, and look for an email from me with the recording of these events and some of these resources. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.